the $0 method used in biblical times to heat any home for free. Imagine waking up on the coldest morning of the year, the kind of morning where your breath turns to vapor the instant it leaves your mouth, and the frost has crept in overnight to paint the inside of the window glass white, and feeling your home still warm around you. No furnace cycling on, no gas line humming in the wall, no bill accumulating at the end of the month. Just the house, holding warmth the way a stone holds the last of the afternoon sun long after the light has gone. That is not a dream, and it is not a modern engineering achievement. That is what Tuesday morning felt like for a family living in an Iron Age Israelite home built 3,000 years ago in the Judean highlands. And what you are about to understand is the complete, layered thermal system those builders used. A system so effective that archaeologists conducting winter surveys of reconstructed Iron Age structures have recorded interior temperatures running 10 degrees warmer than the outside air, with no active heat source of any kind operating inside. This is not a story about primitive endurance. This is not about people suffering through the cold because they lacked alternatives. This is about a deliberately engineered thermal environment assembled from orientation, material, geometry, and an understanding of how the Earth itself stores and releases heat, an understanding that took centuries to develop and was passed from master builder to apprentice the way all knowledge that truly mattered was passed in the ancient world. Through the hands, through practice, through observation that could not afford to be wrong. The last technique in this sequence is one I tracked down in a century-old agricultural survey of the Levant, after finding no mention of it anywhere in modern passive design literature. When I understood what it actually described, I understood immediately why it had quietly disappeared from the conversation. The direction a house faces is not an aesthetic choice. Before a single stone was set, an Israelite master builder stood on his land and watched the sun, not casually and not once. He watched where it rose, where it travelled low across the southern sky in the cold months, where it climbed nearly overhead in summer. Archaeological surveys conducted across domestic sites in the Judean highlands, the hill country of Ephraim, and the Sumerian valleys have documented the same orientation appearing at site after site without variation. The open courtyard face of the house, the side with the greatest wall exposure, directed south or southeast in nearly every instance. Researchers from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, examining Iron Age settlement patterns, have confirmed that this consistency was not the product of terrain, street layout, or accidental preference. It was a deliberate thermal decision applied uniformly across an entire civilization for centuries. The physics behind this decision requires no advanced mathematics to follow. A south-facing wall in the northern hemisphere intercepts the low winter sun, sitting at roughly 30 to 35 degrees above the horizon on a December afternoon in the Judean highlands, at a near perpendicular angle for the maximum available daily hours, pulling in solar energy precisely when the temperature demands it most. In the coldest months, exterior air in the highland region regularly drops to 2 or 3 degrees Celsius overnight. A correctly oriented south wall could absorb enough radiant heat during the day to push interior temperatures 8 to 10 degrees above that overnight low without any other system running at all. That same wall, in summer, when the midday sun climbs to nearly 80 degrees above the horizon, sits largely in its own shadow through the hottest part of the afternoon, because the sun is riding so much higher overhead that the wall never intercepts the full force of it. Exterior summer temperatures in the region regularly reach 36 or 37 degrees Celsius. The south wall, shaded through the afternoon peak, contributed to keeping the interior 6 to 8 degrees cooler than the air outside. One choice of orientation. Two thermal benefits working in opposite directions at opposite times of year. No machinery, no ongoing cost. Just geometry, applied on the day the first stone was placed, repaying that decision every single day for the lifetime of the house and everyone who lived in it. Most contemporary homes face the street, whatever direction the developer chose to run it. The builder saves a morning of planning. The family pays for it for the next 30 years. What thick walls actually do that thin ones cannot? Orientation established the angle at which the house met the sun. The walls determined what the house did with that energy once it arrived. In excavated Iron Age, domestic structures across the Highland settlement network, wall thickness runs consistently between 60 and 90 centimetres, 2 to 3 feet of solid limestone fieldstone, basalt, or dense rammed adobe comprising the full thermal shell of the building. There is no framing cavity, there is no air gap. The wall is simply mass, all the way through, and that mass is the entire point. Modern building science uses the term thermal mass to describe what these walls were doing, though the Israelite builders had no such term. What they had was the observed reality that a thick stone house stayed warm through the night while the air around it went cold, and that a thin-walled structure of the same floor area did not. That observation, confirmed over generations of living inside it, was sufficient. Heat is not merely a gas that fills a room and escapes when a door opens. Heat is energy that can be physically absorbed and stored within dense materials, held there for hours and released gradually as the surrounding temperature drops. Limestone and basalt, the primary building stones of the Judean highlands, have a specific heat capacity of roughly 850 to 900 joules per kilogram per degree Celsius, meaning a single cubic meter of stone wall weighing close to 2,500 kilograms can absorb and hold an enormous thermal charge over the course of an afternoon. An Iron Age wall, 75 centimeters thick, running the full south face of a modest house, could store enough of that daytime solar energy to release 5 to 7 degrees worth of warmth back into the living space across the following 8 hours. It then spent the entire night returning that stored energy at a slow, steady rate, long after the household was asleep and the fire had burned to cold ash. A modern stud wall, typically just 9 centimeters of wood framing packed with fiberglass, carries a thermal mass so negligible it barely registers against that comparison. It is designed primarily to slow heat transfer, not to store it. The instant outdoor temperatures fall sharply below 5 degrees Celsius, it stops contributing anything meaningful. The moment the furnace shuts off, the room begins chasing the exterior temperature within the hour. The Israelite wall did not behave this way because it was not designed to behave this way. It was designed to be the heat source, not the barrier around one. The clay oven that heated the house after the bread was done. Every scholar who has written about the tanner has written about it as a cooking implement. The cylindrical clay oven, standing 2 to 3 feet tall at the center of the Israelite domestic courtyard, its walls 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick, set into the floor or the packed earth. Scholars describe how bread was pressed against its heated interior walls, how it baked fast in the trapped radiant heat, how the household organized its morning around the firing. That part is accurate and well documented. The part that is almost never mentioned is what the tanner was doing to the thermal environment of the house for the 12 hours after the last loaf came out. A tanner brought to baking temperature had absorbed an enormous quantity of thermal energy into its clay body. To fire one to bread baking temperature required reaching an interior heat of roughly 400 to 450 degrees Celsius, hot enough that the clay walls themselves were storing significant thermal energy at depth, not just at the surface. When the fuel burned down and the active fire ceased, the exterior surface of the tanner cooled gradually to somewhere between 60 and 80 degrees Celsius. warm enough to radiate meaningful heat across a room of 15 to 20 square meters, and cool enough that a person could rest a hand or a child's back against it without injury. That surface temperature held for hours. In a living space where the overnight exterior air was dropping to 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, a single tanner radiating steadily at that range could keep the interior 10 to 12 degrees warmer than the air outside without a single additional stick of fuel being added. The prophet Hosea, writing in the 8th century before the Common Era, uses the tanner as a metaphor in chapter 7, verse 4, describing it as an oven that holds its heat even while the baker rests. He is reaching for a comparison his audience will recognize instinctively, because every person listening knows that the tanner keeps giving warmth long after anyone is attending to it. That is not a cooking observation. That is a description of a clay thermal mass heater operating exactly as a masonry heater operates, absorbing a high-intensity heat charge in a short window and releasing it slowly over many subsequent hours. Auburn University research on masonry heating systems has recorded thermal efficiencies in the range of 80 to 90%, substantially above the 60 to 70% range typical of the best contemporary certified wood stoves. The tanner operated on identical physics. One fire each morning, bread for the household, then a warm living space throughout the afternoon and into the evening, with no additional fuel required and no tending necessary. The floor set into the earth and what the earth gave back. At excavated Iron Age sites across the Judean highlands, including Tel Beersheba, Khirbet Qeiyafa, and multiple village sites throughout the Shephelah, archaeologists have recorded a consistent feature of the primary living room that receives surprisingly little attention in thermal analyses of these structures. The floor level was intentionally set below the surrounding exterior grade, not marginally below it, 60 to 90 centimeters below the ground surface in many documented instances, which placed the lower portion of every wall in continuous direct contact with the stable temperature of the surrounding earth. At a depth of roughly 2 meters, ground temperature across the Levantine Highland region holds between 12 and 16 degrees Celsius throughout the year, regardless of what the air above is doing through the seasonal extremes. In the hottest weeks of summer, when surface air temperatures regularly climb past 36 degrees Celsius, the ground at that depth sits 20 degrees cooler. A difference so substantial, it functions as natural air conditioning pushing upward through the floor. In the coldest weeks of winter, when surface air drops to 2 or 3 degrees Celsius overnight, that same ground is holding at 13 or 14 degrees, more than 10 degrees warmer than the air above it, continuously conducting that warmth into the base of every wall and up through the floor surface into the living space. A house with its floor sitting at that depth does not experience the same violent temperature swings that the air above ground endures across the year. The earth pulls the interior steadily toward that 1-2 to 1-6 degree baseline, buffering January cold and July heat with no mechanical assistance of any kind and no fuel of any kind. Penn State Extension research into traditional earth contact construction has quantified what the ancient builders observed through centuries of practice. Structures with meaningful below-grade contact can reduce heating and cooling load by 30 to 50% before any other thermal strategy is layered on top. The Israelite builders of the Highland Village network had been layering additional strategies on top of it for centuries. The channel beneath the floor that no one is talking about. What I want to give you now is the piece of this system that I have not encountered in any modern resource on ancient architecture, any passive design reference, or any history of Old Testament daily life. I found it documented in an 1897 British survey of traditional Palestinian village construction, carried out by the Palestine Exploration Fund and cross-referenced against observations recorded in a 1903 United States Department of Agriculture study of Eastern Mediterranean building methods. It concerns how the Highland builders moved air through the floor itself. In late Iron Age settlement sites across the Judean hill country, excavations have uncovered the remnants of narrow clay channels, approximately 10 to 15 centimeters in diameter, running horizontally beneath the floor surface at a depth of around 20 centimeters. These channels connected at one end to a low opening near the base of the south-facing exterior wall, positioned just 15 to 20 centimeters above ground level to capture the coldest layer of exterior air sitting close to the Earth's surface. During the cold months, when outside air was sitting at 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, that air entered through the low opening, traveled the full length of the underground channels, in some documented cases running 3 to 4 meters beneath the living floor, and rose through small upward vents cut into the stone floor surface to enter the room from below. But it did not arrive at 2 or 3 degrees. It arrived at somewhere between 11 and 13 degrees Celsius. Moving through 20 centimeters of earth, held at that stable underground temperature, the incoming air shed 8 to 10 degrees of cold before it ever touched the interior of the room. The difference between air entering a space at 3 degrees and air entering at 12 degrees is not a minor comfort adjustment. In a room of 20 square meters with low ceilings, it is the difference between a space that feels inhabitable and one that does not. The 1,897 Palestine Exploration Fund survey referred to this feature as a tempered inlet. Roman engineers of the 1st century built a related system and called it a hypocaust. Based on the distribution of these clay channels across multiple Israelite highland sites, this technique appears to have been in continuous use for centuries before Rome laid its first heating floor. No pump, no fan, no electricity, no mechanism of any kind beyond the passive physics of the stack effect. Warm interior air, heated to perhaps 16 or 17 degrees Celsius by the tanner and the thermal mass of the walls, rising naturally and exiting through high roof openings, pulling the cooler tempered air up through the floor channels behind it in a continuous, gentle circulation driven by nothing more than that 4 or 5 degree temperature differential between inside and outside. Modern building science has a name for this phenomenon. The ancient Israelite builders had none because it did not need a name. It was simply how a house was built, the system as a whole, and what it meant to live inside it. Taken individually, each of these elements is impressive. A south-facing orientation, walls 2 to 3 feet of dense stone, a clay oven that stores a morning's fire and returns it slowly throughout the day, a floor set into earth that never freezes and never overheats, underground air channels that take the edge off incoming cold before it enters the room. Together, these elements form something that transcends the sum of their parts. Archaeological thermal modelling of Iron Age Israelite domestic structures has estimated that this layered system was capable of maintaining interior temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees Celsius through Judean highland winters, genuine highland winters, with hard frosts and sub-freezing nights, on fuel consumption that barely rose above the amount needed to bake the household's daily bread. 16 to 18 degrees, one clay oven fired each morning, no bill, no utility company, no supply chain, no infrastructure that could fail or be priced above what a family could afford. The ancient Israelite household did not arrive at thermal self-sufficiency through luck or geography. They built it deliberately, element by element, over centuries of accumulated observation, and they encoded that knowledge into the founding act of every household, the moment the master builder stood on the land, watched where the sun moved, and set the first stone accordingly. The reason this knowledge feels obscure is worth examining. These techniques require no advanced materials, no specialized equipment, no formal training that ordinary people cannot acquire. A family with basic masonry skills and access to fieldstone and a south-facing slope could implement every layer of this system from the ground up. The reason it is not filtered back into the general conversation about how homes should be built is not because it is too complicated. It is because the moment it becomes genuinely widespread knowledge, a meaningful portion of residential energy demand, a market currently worth tens of billions of dollars annually, quietly disappears. The people who profit from that market have spent decades shaping the building codes, the contractor training programs, and the architectural standards that keep thin-walled, north-facing, above-grade construction as the unquestioned default. The Israelite builder on his Judean hillside 3,000 years ago was not living in poverty or making do with less. He was living inside a thermal system so well matched to its environment that the earth itself did half the work for nothing. We chose somewhere in the middle of the 20th century to stop building that way and start paying for the difference instead. That choice was never inevitable. The knowledge to make a different one has been sitting in the excavated rubble of ancient hill country villages the whole time. If you are the kind of person who has started to suspect that practical ancient knowledge gets quietly buried when it poses a problem for industries built around selling you what your house could be doing for free, then you already know what comes next. Subscribe, because the system we look at in the next video runs on principles that make everything covered here feel like the prologue.